Honestly, where do you even begin with a game such as Conker's Bad Fur Day? Announced as Conker's Quest during the 1997 E3, this cute and cuddly platformer seemed to be a logical fit for the usually family-friendly Nintendo 64 console. Now the protagonist even found his way into 1997's Diddy Kong Racing, while his starring role would actually be years off. In 1998 the game was renamed as 12 Tales of Conker 64 before disappearing without trace for several years. Meanwhile, Conker finally debuted as a starring role properly in 1999's Game Boy Color release Conker's Pocket Tales. Just when everybody had thought the game had been quietly cancelled, in 2000 it was revealed that the game would be privy to one of the biggest changes in direction since Bugs Bunny took a wrong turn at Albuquerque. Gone were the sickeningly cute characters that were seen in practically every platformer from Crop to Spyro, and instead, Rare developed a game that featured some of the foulest characters on any system, let alone the usually safe zone of the Nintendo 64. And while Nintendo had some level of supervision in the project at this point, they refused to eventually publish it, leaving it to Rare themselves to actually distribute the game in North America and Australia, while THQ published Bad Fur Day in Europe. Make no mistake, this was not your average platformer, and that's not even referring to the incredibly blue humour. This was an adventure split into several chapters spanning multiple locales. You had your standard bright and colourful areas certainly, but Conker would find his way into all sorts of scrapes on the day after the night before. It's not every day you encounter a hangover that takes you to prehistoric times, a Saving Private Ryan inspired war, and even running into an ancestor whose behaviour is nothing more than taking cues from Gary Oldman's take on Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's a game built around these ridiculous set pieces and situations, shepherding you along via a thinly veiled conceit of trying to get home after a night of one too many brews with the lads. There's action, there's platform jumping, and there's trying to give cows a nasty bout of explosive diarrhea by force feeding them prune juice. Yes, scatological humour is very much a huge part of Conker's Bad Fur Day. Released during the height of South Park's popularity, this sort of immature comedy remained massively popular, especially to someone of high school age like I was at the time. And it was the sort of game that you just showed people because no one would believe you if you told them some of the things this game let you do, on the same system as Mario 64 no less. This was a game of bodily functions and parodies of popular movies. A game that featured a whole level based around a scene in The Matrix, along with an intro ripped straight from A Clockwork Orange. If you were between 15 and 30, this game would have likely been right up your street. But moving away from the controversial subject matter, is Conker's Bad Fur Day a good game? This is a game that comes from the awkward early days of gaming in a 3D space, but its mechanics are based around Super Mario 64's, so the foundations are solid. It's also stripped of the collectathon gameplay that featured in practically every Rare game released on the system, so of course it earns bonus points for that. It's arguable that, well, without the crude content, Bad Fur Day would just be a very generic platformer, and maybe there's a little bit of truth in that. But looking at the game as a whole, the parodies and the humorous situations allow for Rare to implement some pretty fun and clever gameplay ideas. There are times where gameplay mechanics completely change, such as the game turning into a third-person shooter during later areas. Because you're being led through these different settings, it just keeps things fresh. But this is a game that is blemished by quite a few faults, although many are due to the occasionally clunky nature of the controls and the base mechanics, something that we wouldn't have even realised at the time. Playing it today via the excellent Rare Replay, or even in its remade and watered down form as Conker Live and Reloaded on the Xbox One, well, the original Xbox, not the new Xbox, but you know what I mean, there are points where it just hasn't aged well. There are moments where pure frustration kicks in due to some unnecessary difficulty spikes that are mostly brought on by control and camera issues, but also due to some poor level design as well. With that said, this is Rare pushing the Nintendo 64 as far as they could, fitting some of the best graphics on the system as well as tons of MP3 dialogue into a 512 megabit cartridge, or in modern terms 64 megabytes of space, one of the largest games on the system alongside Resident Evil 2 and Pokemon Stadium 2. It's a technically impressive game for the time, and while mechanically it's not really up to par with modern platformers, if you were to take Conker's Bad Fur Day as a whole, you will find a very unique experience, one that I don't think you could ever get away with making today. As Rare's final Nintendo 64 game, and one of the last major games to be released for this system, it is an impressive send-off for a truly excellent and underrated system. This was the Retrocast. This is but one of many shows on the God Is a Geek YouTube channel, and I highly recommend that you subscribe to our channel and see what all the fuss is about. Thank you very much for watching as always. I will see you on Monday for another Reasons to be Cheerful, and the Retrocast will be back in a fortnight with another episode. Goodbye.
Sure to back the God Is Geek Patreon.